Hello everyone. In order to help you a little bit with the car project that you're working on, I am going to just show you one quick calculation that you might need at one point, or you will need at one point on your project, and that is the calculation of how much fuel are you going to need for a specific trip. So the first thing you're going to have to do is look up what the fuel efficiency for a vehicle is, and I did that, and here's an example of what I found on Google. I typed in Honda Civic fuel economy or fuel efficiency, and I got this little statement that you can see right here. The 9.6 L/100 km combined, 11 city, 8.4 highway. So what does that all mean? Well, this is your fuel efficiency in liters per 100 kilometers. That is the metric way of talking about how much fuel a car uses. Now, in the city, the car is going to use more fuel than on the highway. Okay? And that's because your car, and you can look this up as well, your car runs a little bit cleaner on the highway, because it's running at a higher RPM, which is actually better for the engine, and it's not stopping and going all the time. So the stop and go motion of stoplights and stop signs is actually very, very hard on an engine because it takes your car a lot of energy to get rolling once it's stopped, which is due to inertia. So this is why you have two different numbers here. This 9.6 is usually just an average of those two numbers. So the 9.6 liters per 100 kilometers can be used if you're going to be doing both highway and city driving in approximately the same amount of distances. But if you know you're going to be on the highway more than the city, or vice versa, you can use any of each of those two numbers independently. Okay. Now you may see your fuel efficiency if you're researching vehicles on US sites given as miles per gallon instead of liters per 100 kilometers. Now just to show you, if you go to Google and type in convert 40 mpg, now it's already coming up for me because I had done this search just to check to see if it works, but if you start typing convert 40 mpg, which stands for miles per gallon, it'll probably immediately give you the option to convert it to, now this is not an I, this is an L, okay? You could either choose one of these two. I would just choose the top one, and immediately right up at the top of the screen here, it shows you your value in liters per 100 kilometers for 40 miles per gallon, okay? So you can very, very quickly do the conversion if you have to. So what can you do with that calculation? Well, one of the questions in your project is going to ask you to calculate how much money does it cost in gas to travel a certain distance. Now, I'm going to give you an example here. I would appreciate it if the ones you give me in your work is not the exact same as this one. So choose a different distance, okay? But I'm just using the data from the slide before for the Honda. You are about to take a 1,300 kilometer road trip and want to estimate how much it'll cost in gas. Since the majority of the trip is on the highway, you use the 8.4 liters per 100 kilometers as your car's fuel efficiency. So this is an option. It really depends on how often you're going to be in cities and highways, but if you're going 1,300 kilometers, you're probably going to be on the highway more often than in the city. But that depends on your trip. So if you'd rather use the average of the two numbers, that's fine. I'm just choosing to use 8.4 liters per 100 here so that because I'm going to be on the highway more often. Now another number that you're going to need is how much does it cost per liter for gas. Okay? So I want to write these out in a specific way. You've got 8.4 liters per 100 kilometer. I'm going to write that as a fraction. You've got 1,300 kilometers, and you've got $1.30 per liter. I'm going to use a capital L for liter so you can tell that it's not a 1, okay? We have to somehow combine these three numbers to end up with dollars as a final answer. Now, it's actually quite simple, and it's based on what I call the scientific way of working with units. I want you to look at the units here, liters divided by kilometers. Well, right here, I have units that are kilometers, and I want you to notice that the kilometers are on the bottom of the fraction, and the kilometers are at the top of the fraction over here. I could actually write 1300 kilometers as 1300 over 1. So that's technically a fraction. Okay? So the kilometers are at the top of the fraction for this value, and at the bottom of the fraction for this value. Well, when you multiply two values that have units on the bottom that are exactly the same as units on the top, they cancel. And this is going to, just by multiplying your liters per 100 kilometer times your 1300, that alone is going to tell you how many liters you've used, because the only leftover unit here is the liters. Okay? So you're just multiplying those two numbers together. Now I'm going to do that off camera. So I'm going to multiply 8.4. Now here's how you have to do it. It is 8.4 divided by 100. Right? 8.4 divided by 100 times 1300. So that's what the 8.4 per 100 kilometers means. You have to divide by 100. So 8.4 divided by 100 times 1300 equals 109.2. So just this part here gives me 109.2 liters. Okay, so that's the first thing you would do, is multiply your liters per 100 kilometers times your kilometers. But then I'm trying to find a price. This is not a price yet. This is a liter amount. But liter amounts are needed because that's what you buy when you go to the gas station. You buy liters of gas. And we can see here that the price is $1.30 per liter for the gas in this example. Well, I'm going to use the same idea I used here for units. I'm trying to get dollars as my final unit. So let me put those two things next to each other. And I want you to see that the liters here are at the top of a fraction. I can write this as a fraction if I put it over 1. Okay. The liters here are at the bottom of the fraction. So using the logic from above, if I multiply those two, the liters from the top cancel out with the liters from the bottom, and look at the only unit I'm left over with, which is dollars. So that's all we're going to do here, is we're going to multiply the 109.2 times the $1.30, and that's going to tell me how much money it cost to pay for gas. So again, I'm just going to do this off screen. So 109.2 times 1.30 equals 141.96 dollars. And that's how you calculate how much money it'll cost you approximately in gas. And I'm saying approximately because, you might have to stop at a construction on the road or whatever it might be. And your car's fuel efficiency is never 100% the same as what they're listing. Sometimes it's a little higher, sometimes it's a little lower. It depends on how your engine is performing. But it's a very good estimate as to how that works. So just to recap, if you're given a fuel efficiency and you know what gas prices are, you just multiply your distance times your fuel efficiency times the price, and you could actually do that all in one step if you wanted to. And that'll give you how much money it costs for gas for that trip. So that should help you with that question in your project.